Olá a todos. A minha convidada de hoje do Isto não estava no prefácio é a Louise Candlish, autora britânica que já escreveu 18 livros, 5 deles publicados em Portugal pelo Clube do Autor. Nesta conversa, a Louise mostrou-se super divertida, com muito sentido de humor e uma enorme sinceridade nas respostas. Falou sobre as adaptações televisivas dos seus livros, de como adora escrever de pijama e como abdicou do seu grande vício, o café. Confessou também que adora Portugal e que está à espera de um convite para vir conhecer os leitores portugueses. Espero que gostem. Hi there, Louise.
Hi there.
Hi, how are you?
I'm really good, thank you. How are you? Lovely to meet you.
Lovely to meet you too, and thank you for being here on my podcast.
Oh, no worries at all. Let me just okay that. Great. Oh, you've got a lovely, lovely office there. Lots
Yes,
of
I do.
books.
And you see that hole behind me?
Yeah.
Your books, because they're here.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah,
That's so brilliant. I just have one. Is this going to be
it's here.
filmed or is this
Oh
going
yeah,
to be just
yes, yes.
audio? Yeah.
Filmed we can listen on Spotify, but also watch it on YouTube.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah,
Okay, excellent.
this is my thriller shelf, but it's getting too small. I have
Wow,
other rooms
yeah.
with books around the house.
Right. Okay. So they're
I'm
your
a thriller
prized ones.
addict, so these
It
ones are
looks like it. How
my yes.
amazing. Well, what a pleasure to be
Pardon my
part of this
French, but the
series.
more fucked up, the better.
I love it.
So, Louise, have you ever been in Portugal?
Yes, absolutely. I've been to Portugal lots of times. I'm trying to remember when the last time was. I think I went a couple of years ago. I went to the Silver Coast, which was lovely, and went to Lisbon as well. I've never been in Portugal for work, but just for holidays.
Hmm.
And I've been to the Algarve a few times
Of
as
course.
well. So yes, but I probably should explore a little bit more. I spend a lot of time in France because I've got a house there.
Hmm.
So we tend to go to France more, but I do love Portugal. It's very popular with the Brits, as you know.
Yeah, in Algarve,
Yeah,
you're at home when you're in Algarve. Yeah.
yeah. How
And
do you
we have
feel
a lot of
about that? Yeah.
celebrities now from Hollywood living here.
Oh, really? Who've you got?
Oh, really? Last month, Nicole Kidman bought a house here.
Wow,
Yeah.
fantastic.
And we have
Mm.
Michael Fassbender also for a few years with his
Oh, wow.
wife. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
He lives
Are
in
you in? Are
Lisbon.
you, right. Where are you?
I'm 90 kilometers south Lisbon.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
And what's
I
the name of the place?
Santarém.
Oh, okay. I've not been
It's
there.
very warm.
Right. And
Yeah, in the summer, now it's not this that warm because now the weather has changed, but sometimes we have like 40 degrees Celsius.
yeah, oh, that's too
It's very
hot.
warm. It's
Yeah,
very
that's
warm.
tough. You need to get in the sea then, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah, but I don't for me to go to the beach, I have to drive like 40 minutes by car.
Oh,
I don't
okay. So
have,
it's not
but
right
Portugal
there.
is so small that
Yeah.
you grab your car and you're near everything. So
Yeah. Fabulous.
you're very nice, Louise. Very
Oh,
cheeky.
thank
I like
you.
that.
Yeah, I haven't spoken to anyone yet today. I've been in writing today, so it's lovely to do
So
something
you're in
sociable.
closure now.
Yeah.
So Louise, I checked that you used to write. Sorry, you used to work for in publishing, and you used to do editing in illustration books for children, right?
Yes, I did work in
Okay.
in illustrated books in the 1990s, but they weren't for children, they were for adults.
Oh, okay, okay.
But yeah, they were art history books and practical art guides. So yeah, the company was called Dorling Kindersley, and I think would have been published in Portugal because they were, hugely successful, those books
Hmm.
back in the 90s. Yeah, so very different from the fiction publishing world.
And how did you decide, and when did you decide to become a writer? Because not going now to your books, but I've checked, and you've written 18 books. A lot of books since
Yeah,
2004, I think.
yes, that's right. Yeah, 18
But
books
they are a
and
little bit different now, right?
they are, yes, they didn't begin as thrillers, but they were much lighter, my first books. I was working as a copywriter. I was
Hmm.
probably about, my early 30s, and I decided to take a career break and go traveling. So I went to Sicily just with a backpack for a couple of months. It wasn't anything serious. And while I was away, I realized it was the first time that I'd had so much time on my own. And, I was so used to working. I'd worked, every day since finishing university. I'd barely had a break. And so I was quite bored and lonely. And so I just started writing a novel literally by hand in a notebook. This was 2001. And that book became my first published book. So yeah, it was just written on a whim, and to keep me company. I created some characters to be my friends for this trip, and they ended up being in my first novel.
Okay, so Louise, here in Portugal, we have five of your books. I have them all. I've read them all, but I started this one 2 days ago, so I
Right.
haven't
Yeah.
finished. I'm sorry.
Ah, okay. Yes, that's the
Okay.
latest one.
And
Yeah.
I can see that Clube do Autor, they stick to the original covers, most of them, I think. So the first one that I read was this one. Can you guess in Portuguese what is the original title?
Yeah, yeah, that is your own cover. That's just for Portugal, and that's The Other Passenger.
Yeah, I read this one no, 3 years ago, and
Ah, okay.
then I read Our House,
Yeah, I
and
love
then
that
I read
cover. That's a great cover.
yeah, it is. And
Yeah.
then this one, read it last year, the last sus no, it's
The
not the
only
last
suspect.
suspect.
Yeah, the only
This
suspect.
was the last one I read, The Heights.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Great.
and now I'm with this one. Can
Right.
you
Okay.
guess what was my favorite?
Well, I'm not going to include the Our Holiday, which is
Mhm.
the last one you held up because you haven't finished it, but that probably will be your favorite. But I'm going to guess that you liked The Heights best.
With all due respect, that was my least favorite.
What? Oh my
I love
goodness, that's so
I love
funny.
this one. I picked it
Oh,
up for my
okay.
book club. I
Right.
really, really loved this one. This was
Oh,
I was always talking about it because I think it's not I came up with this hashtag. It's called translated popcorn thriller. And your
yeah.
thrillers are not like that. I mean, you have to take your time to read those.
Yes.
You don't read
Yes.
that in one day or two. It's not, it's fast paced, but it takes a little bit longer. It's
Yeah.
not chewable like
Yeah.
some,
No, good
popcorn
description.
thrillers. And
Yeah.
this one, I thought it was perfect because you couldn't believe all the twists that it had, you know?
Yeah,
And
it's quite a complicated book. Yes,
yeah.
I should have known it would be Our House because that is my most famous book to date. And it is, yeah, it did have quite an original structure when it was published, with the podcast format and the his and hers narration.
And it turned out to be a four-episode series. We don't have it here in Portugal. Uh,
Ah,
yeah,
okay, yes, yeah. I don't know if you can access ITVX, which is the
I can
British
access in
streamer,
another way,
in
not
another way.
barely
If you
legal,
were
but
to
I can
find a
try.
way to access ITVX, you would be able to watch it
Yeah.
there. And in
Uh,
fact, the same team are making The Only Suspect.
oh,
So that will be the
great.
next on our screens. Yes.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that's all being planned at the moment. So very exciting.
That's really good. So with this one, you won the award for the best thriller, crime and thriller of the year. You
Yes.
were this was 6 years ago. How was it for
Yeah.
you?
The award, winning the award, it was amazing because you definitely don't know in advance. It's a complete surprise when they call
Hmm.
your name. Because sometimes when I see those award ceremonies, I think, well, I bet they know, um, but you don't know. And so we all screamed, and it was a huge room. It was a sort of huge, big hotel. sort of space with, over 1,000 people. So it was all quite, surreal. But no, I was really excited. And I felt like because I'd had a period before that book came out where, my books were published and they didn't, they weren't really stocked in
Hmm.
shops much. And, they were just sort of dead in the water, some of them. Others did okay. And others did less well. And so it felt like it was really good for someone who was mid-career to, have this big hit and break out because I felt like it was, it would have inspired me to have seen that happen to someone at that stage in their career because we see so much of these sort of big debuts, these overnight
Yeah.
successes. Someone's first book, and they've got, $1 million advance and they're number one bestseller. And, I had been through so many books and I was about to
You
give
had
up,
been
in fact.
through 13 books before winning this.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I was about to stop writing because I thought, well, I've given it my all, because I really had given it my all. And, as you say, my books aren't popcorn books. They
Yeah.
are a bit more thoughtful. There's often a bit of, they're very layered and
Hmm.
so there's quite a lot of social commentary or, psychologically, I think they can be quite complicated. And so, they take quite a lot out of me to write and I really put my heart into them. And so I thought, okay, I've done 12 or 14 or however many it was, and I've given it my best shot. So now I'm going to do something else. But then, just as I'd made that decision, I read the newspaper report that inspired our house. And so I thought, ooh, that's such an unusual crime. I've never read about that before. I really think I can come up with something original. So I'll do one more.
Hmm.
And so that's what I did. And I didn't have any money at all. I was completely broke because I wrote it out of contract. I didn't have a publisher. And yeah, it turned out to be a good decision to do just one more.
Yes, it did. You know what I found funny today? You have your own hashtag for these kinds of books, and it's called well, let me check.
Yeah.
Property porn thrillers. I loved
Yeah.
it because I just came up a few months ago last year with an hashtag called Thrillerhoods. It's like those kinds of books and Leanne Moriarty's when you have a neighborhood,
Yes. Yeah.
normally middle class or
Yes.
high up class. And then I thought, no, this is excellent. I'm not saying because you're here. I really thought this is excellent. Property porn thrillers. Did that
Yeah.
stuck?
Yeah. I know. I mean, it was used quite a bit initially, but I think you'd be more likely to say property noir now.
Oh,
But like
fancy.
all of these labels, they move on.
Yeah.
Honestly, if I'd made a list of all of the labels my books had attracted over the years, I mean, there would be thousands, absolutely thousands. And of course, in the US, they have their own categories as well. But yeah, property porn. Thriller was a really good one because it kind of, especially when with the TV show where, it's the most beautiful interiors. The
Hmm.
house is, much more glamorous than I imagined it was when I wrote the book. And so it really is, it is a very good label for some of my books. And I think as well for this one, because this is about holiday
Oh,
homes.
you have it in
And so,
Portuguese also?
yeah, I think you just held it up, didn't you?
Oh,
Yeah.
no, I know,
Have
but
you?
I thought when you showed me, I thought it was the original one with the title in English. So
No, 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 no.
they send it to
This is
you also in
yeah.
Portuguese.
Yes,
Oh.
absolutely. I got a little box of them, and this is in fact the Australian cover. This was the Australian cover. It was called Our Holiday in Australia, but they had a different cover. And so you in Portugal you've used their cover. Yeah, so this is another property porn thriller, I would say, because the holiday homes in question are one of them is very beautiful, and what everyone aspires to, and there's a lot of contrast with other dwellings. Some people live in, caravans and they're, so either too hot or too cold and, they've got absolutely no space and it's very claustrophobic. Another family are, refurbishing a house. They're doing
Mhm.
a big building construction job. And so, yeah, it's property features heavily in this one as well. But some of my books aren't so much to do with property.
Of
I
course.
dip in and out of the theme, but it's a huge theme, I think, in most of the Western world and anywhere where it's a wealthy city, you've got a massive housing problem. So people talk about housing all the time in the UK, so it's always on my mind.
Louise, what is your opinion on this? There are a lot of English female writers now. A few years ago, you had like an American two authors that I really really love, Gillian Anderson and Karen Slaughter. Different,
Oh yes, yeah.
but now it's like it's you, it's Ruth Ware, it's Lisa Jewell, Gillian McAllister, a lot of female. I don't know if some of you know each other. Well, Ruth
We
Ware knows
do, yes,
Gillian McAllister.
yes.
She told me. What is your opinion
Yes,
on that?
I've met all those ladies.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's great. I think it's because of the trend of psychological suspense rather
Hmm.
than pure thrillers. And I think women just absolutely excel in sort of going into those crevices of the mind and finding the kind of the dark
Are
space.
more twisted. Yeah.
Yeah, more twisted
Hmm.
and maybe more emotional. So you get a lot of relatability with the emotions of the characters. I mean, I do actually. There are so many UK male thriller writers who I love, like Tim Weaver, Tim Logan, Mark Edwards. There are lots of them. But you're right. I tend to think of the men as being more attracted to those kind of procedural police books, straight thriller, whereas the women writers are generally excelling in the psychological thrillers. But, it's hard to generalize because there's always, incredible exceptions. And, both men and women are writing cozy crime. But yeah, it was a huge trend. And I think in the UK it started with very much with Paula Hawkins
Hmm.
and The Girl on the Train. And
Yes.
as you say, Gillian Flynn with Gone Girl in the US. And that kind of just set it up. And I think publishers and retailers could see that these books could sell in their millions. Whereas, they may not have been, quite so confident previously. But some of my favorite authors, people like Ruth Rendell, who also wrote as Barbara Vine, who's one of my favorites. They were, and Agatha Christie, they were doing all of this psychological stuff decades before the 21st century writers. So there's always been that tradition, but it exploded in the about around sort of 2010 onwards. I think it exploded and is still very, very popular, which is good.
And now we're experiencing a lot of adaptations from books, from several books.
Yes, that's
And
right.
are you involved in that, or just you just sold the rights and you don't have anything to do with the series? Both series that you mentioned.
Yeah, well, our house was developed during the COVID lockdown,
Hmm.
so it was very hard to have any involvement other than a few phone calls. I'm a bit more involved with The Only Suspect. My involvement is very much sort of chatting to the screenwriter. It's the same screenwriter for both series, and just sort of filling in any gaps that he might find as because it's a completely different way of structuring a story, a different way of telling a story. The Only Suspect happens to be extremely, it's got a big deception in it, which works really well on the page and has to be handled very differently on screen. So we talk about that a lot. I've got a really good relationship with the producers. We hope to work together long term. So yes, I'm very involved, but some of my other books are with other producers.
Hmm.
So yeah, it varies. It varies. I don't know if you've read my book, The Swimming Pool,
No,
that's
no, no.
been
But
developed.
I know that one, but I haven't
Yeah,
read it.
yeah. There's quite a few of them under option and are in various stages of development. And in fact, this one, Our Holiday, is has been optioned by Sony, and that's very exciting. What could happen with that? But once the screenwriter is writing, I wouldn't disturb them. I wouldn't be interfering and saying, "How's it going?" I wait for them to come to me if they
Of
need
course.
me. And then, of course, when filming gets underway, I want to visit the set and meet the cast. And all of that is, a really lovely highlight, of my career. But yeah, so I'm sort of, I'm involved, but I'm not interfering.
Louise, you mentioned that our holiday probably will be adapted to. So you are a wizard and you have the gift to choose the cast. Okay, so who are you going to pick?
Oh my goodness. I haven't really thought about the cast of our holiday, to be honest. The
You have
nearest I would
unlimited
get,
money. Okay, you can
yeah,
choose whoever
I
you
think
want.
Charlotte, I think Charlotte would be the first, Charlotte and Perry would be the first to cast. And I think Kate Blanchett would be amazing.
She's
Um,
amazing in everything.
yeah, yeah, she would be amazing. Maybe depending on what kind of age we wanted to pitch Perry, he could even be Hugh Grant or someone like that.
Okay.
Because he's very, sort of avuncular, but he's also got that kind of dark,
Mm-hmm.
grumpy side as well. I don't know about BT is 17 years old, so I think we would need, probably a
Yeah,
new
from new
name,
generation of actors. Yeah.
brand new star, maybe a British Sydney Sweeney sort of type. But yeah, the others I don't know. I think the two young men, Robbie and Tate, who are the activists in the village where the Londoners come down to spend time in their holiday homes. They're going to be exciting to cast because they both need to be quite charismatic and good looking and edgy as well. So and again, could be new names. It's so hard to say, and it's funny you should say, you've got an unlimited budget, say who you want, but I genuinely don't really think about it that much because I know I'm going to be way off with my predictions. And when our house was cast, I would never have predicted that it would have been Martin Compston and Tuppence Middleton.
Mm-hmm.
And they ended up being so amazing that I now can't think of the book without seeing their faces. They completely reinvented both of those roles. But if you had asked me, they wouldn't have been in the ballpark because I would have thought they were too young. And they weren't how I pictured the characters initially.
Mm-hmm.
But that's why it's so exciting when you have an adaptation because you get a completely second life with the project. It's completely reimagined and recreated and reconstructed by a different brain and, by visual creative people rather than writers, just writers. So yeah, you'd be surprised how little I think about casting.
Okay.
I'm too busy with my deadlines. Yeah.
Louise, I asked you for your three favorite books, and you mentioned Madame Bovary by Gustave Flaubert, Death on the Nile by Agatha Christie, and Brideshead Revisited by Evelyn Vaughan. I don't know, it's Vaughan, but I have one question.
War, yeah,
Vaughan.
yeah, Evelyn War.
One question for you. Where is Jeremy Irons? I haven't seen him in a long time.
Oh yes, from Brideshead. Um, I wonder if he's retired. He's probably retired. I think doesn't he live in a castle in Ireland? And he's
Oh,
probably
probably.
strolling around looking. Oh, actually, no. Did a friend of mine say she'd seen him in Oxfordshire? He might have a house there. He's definitely, still alive and kicking. But no, I
Okay.
haven't seen him in anything for ages. We should
Yeah.
Google him and see if he's still acting.
I remember this series when I was a little girl. Yeah, I think it was
Yeah,
here in Portugal. It was very big. So,
yeah.
my question is, why did you choose these three books?
Well, Agatha Christie's obviously one of my favorites, and I'm sure every single crime and thriller writer would say the same. And I do have a
True,
number of
true.
favorites. Yeah, and I think just because quite often we read her at a formative age. So I read Agatha Christie when I was about 12, I think, 11 or 12, and I read them all in one go. And so, I think that that was just at a time when I was developing as a maturing. And
Mm-hmm.
so, became a part of my DNA, I think. So, it's my comfort, even though they're quite dark and quite evil, it's still a comfort read for me to read an Agatha Christie. So, and Death on the Nile is my favorite, I think, partly because it's the one where I can remember reading it for the first time and I can remember how I felt. And being that kind of young person, just sort of like sitting on my bed or lying on my little single bed in the room I shared with my sister. And I just was so stunned by the ingenious plotting. I just never read anything like it in my life. I didn't even know that such stories existed. So, so I just think that was hugely influential on me. And I have yet to write a book in that kind of locked room environment where all of the characters are unable to escape. So I still need to do that, but she's obviously never been improved on in those sorts of stories. So yeah, Death on the
Do you
Nile is
like that genre of thrillers? Do you like it?
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And I love Josephine Tay as well. And I
Hmm.
love the Golden Age and the whimsy books, Dorothy L. Sayers. I love the whimsy books as well. I just find them really clever and I love the witty characters. And in Agatha Christie in particular, I think you get something that I use in my books as well. A really close observation of the class system and, the hierarchies in communities and status. She really understood status, to a T. And I'm really interested in writing about status as well. And what is it that people want out of life? Do they want money? Do they want property? Do they want love? Do they want a big family? What do they want? And quite often what they want is to feel like they're special in some way. And I think she really understood that. And the jealousies of relationships, the sort of the sexual betrayals and envy and avarice and all the deadly sins she was absolutely on top of. So yeah, Death on the Nile is such a huge book for me.
And then what about Madame Bovary?
That's, I guess, a sort of that will give you an insight into the sort of slightly more melancholic side of
Hmm.
me, I think, because I am quite bleak, and it doesn't get much bleaker than Madame Bovary. And obviously, I love it for where it sits in the context of literature. Being this very early slice of psychological realism. Just extraordinarily before its time, I think. Um, but so many of the themes in that book are themes that I have explored, dissatisfaction, sort of marriages gone wrong, feeling, sort of impotent and unable to get what you want. And, she's just an extraordinary character. The fact that she, if she was alive today, Emma Bovary, if she was in a book today, she would be on Instagram making herself feel bad because she hasn't got the life of, Kendall Jenner or whatever. But back then she was, reading magazines and, just living in a dream world and then to be put in this incredibly boring, market town, married to a doctor who just wants a very, very small life. And it's that yearning, I think, is very modern. She yearns for a bigger life at a time when there was no way a woman was going to be able to have that life. She's basically, the man who wants to marry her and her father agree that she will marry him. She's got no agency. And obviously then goes on to have, some disastrous affairs. She's a terrible mother. I mean, she's an incredible character. But ultimately, it's a really sad book. It's a tragedy, and I am very attracted to those tragic, bleak stories. So yeah, it's always been one of my favorites, though I've never read it in French.
So, if your best friend had to describe you in one paragraph, no filters, what would they say? Assuming by your answer you didn't ask your best friend, so I'm going to
No,
read
I wouldn't dare. No. I don't want to
some of
know.
guests some guests bring their I am quoting their friends, and I have this case that one friend sent me an email with the answer.
Oh my God. Do you know what? It didn't. I'm obviously a control freak because it didn't occur to me to
Are you a
actually get someone
Capricorn
else
or a
to.
Virgo?
No, I'm Cancer.
Oh, okay.
So I'm not a control freak at all. But it didn't occur to me to I suppose I thought I could write it better than anyone else. But I
So,
honestly don't know. I think people I think generally there's a misconception about authors.
mhm,
I think people think we are millionaires who every other day are having a glamorous lunch or going to a launch or going to a premiere or having a meeting with a movie producer. And even when you look at but on my social media, which I don't do it a lot of, but I try and keep it a bit more real because it's just not realistic. This idea of what our lives are. My life is sitting in my pajamas. I've literally changed out of my pajamas to chat to you.
no, you could be in your pajamas
Yeah,
with a
no.
bottom, yeah. Like a
I thought it
TV
would be, I
presenter,
thought it
that's
would
what they
be,
do.
yeah.
They have shorts in the summer, and then they have like they're all fancy. Uh,
Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, maybe I have got pajama bottoms on. You wouldn't know, but actually, no, I do have jeans on. So I think that, that misconception of what an author is does actually apply to friends as well. I mean, no matter, how much complaining I do, I think everyone still thinks, oh, she's got a dream job, she's got it easy. What could be easier than making up stories for a living? But I think that my friends, my close friends know that I work very hard. I do have to deal with a lot of ups and downs. I've had a very checkered career. It has not been all bestsellers. There have been more flops than
Of
hits
course.
in my career. And so, I think probably what they would have noticed was that I have persevered. I think I'm a perseverer. I have kept going and just had faith in myself and just try to have faith and try and work with the people who believe in my stories. But outside of work, I think I would be known as very sociable. I love going out for a drink and putting the world to rights, talking about politics, gossiping about everything. I love having a glass of wine or six. And so, yeah, I
Six
think I've,
bottles or six
yeah,
glasses?
six glasses. Yeah, it's not the 90s anymore. But, but
Do you
yeah, I
know?
mean, I've got a lot of friends. Lots of my close friends are still, I've known since the 90s. We used to party together then, and so
You should write a book about
they know
that.
where, yeah, they
Based
know
on you, but
well.
if people would ask you, and you say, no, 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 that's not me, but it
Yeah,
was.
absolutely. Well, The Only Suspect, which is in your pile, that is set in the 90s. So that's very much my love letter to, that sort of lifestyle, even though in the book it turns very twisted and dark and murderous, which my own 20s didn't happen. We all escaped uninjured. But yeah, that's very much a kind of tribute to, my heyday because I really think the 90s was a very special era, especially in London when
Hmm.
we had, this explosion of culture,
Of
Cool
course,
Britannia.
movies and music,
Yeah,
a lot of great
yeah,
music came
yeah.
from the UK in the 90s, of course.
That's
Um,
right. Yes, yeah. So the
but here
book,
in Portugal, Portugal readers and people who will listen to this will relate. Our Portuguese writers are very poor. It's
okay,
true.
yeah, yeah.
Portuguese writers don't, there's not even one that that its only budget comes from movies, sorry, from books. No
From
one.
books,
And
yeah, yeah.
the best selling one or one of the best sellers is a TV not a TV host, is a journalist, and he
Right.
sells a
Yeah,
lot. Even he has his paycheck from the TV. Everyone has to do a lot of teach classes and go to
yeah.
libraries and festivals, and now they are getting paid, but just like 2 years ago only the big ones got paid. So Portuguese writers don't, they know that being a writer, it's not glamour in Portugal at all, you know.
No, no. I can imagine, and
Yeah,
it's a smaller market with, in the
it is.
Portuguese language,
We don't have
I
agents
guess.
here. It's impossible. I would
Oh,
love,
wow.
everyone knows, I would love to be an agent. It's my dream job. But it's impossible because here The writers receive, like, for example, 10, 11% from each book from royalties, and they
Yeah.
don't get, when they get advanced, it's an advancement in cash, it's like maximum probably 2,000 euros. And
Ah, okay.
it's not from all publishers, so they don't have money to pay to pay an agent.
No,
It's impossible
no.
here. We have a our very own reality.
Right. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. Well, that sounds very tough. And clearly the model is, writing as your passion alongside another paid job. And a lot of writers in the UK are the same. And, I know I'm very lucky to be able to write full time. Um, there aren't very many writers even in the UK who are able to do that. Lots of people are doing something else as well. But that does sound very tough. And I think it's what's tough about that is, you agents are so important. I think you need that champion. You need the agent to negotiate the better advance
And to
and
sell your
to
book probably
yes,
in
and
other
sell your book
countries and all that.
internationally. Yeah,
Here, the
in
writer,
translation.
yeah, the
Yeah,
writer here, the publisher, find some places, some fairs or book fairs to go, but it's the person, the writer that has to go online and find podcasts and find TV and do all the work. If you don't do all the work, you just do like a presentation or some presentations when your book comes out. But if you don't work in like 2 months after your book comes out, you people forget about you.
yeah.
It's yourself that you have to do all that job. And
Oh my
imagine this
goodness.
by work by have and I have a lot of people that I that are examples of this, you know. I know a lot of writers, female and male. I can give you like for example five or that work just for for writing, you know.
Yeah,
All of them have 9 to 5 jobs. They have to make money because they don't make money out of movies. Out
yeah.
of movies, I'm
Out of
sorry.
books.
That would be
Yeah,
good.
yeah,
Out of
yeah.
books. It's very hard for them. Very
Yeah,
hard
I
because
didn't know that. Goodness.
yes, you have
What
you
about the
for
Brazilian market? There must be
no,
there
that's
must be
huge.
some.
Brazilian market.
Yeah.
When you have your book, I have two a writer, female and male. Now that they have their books there, it's different. But
Yeah.
they both of them they don't have their jobs. Okay, just write. But they have like 8, 9 books already. Okay. But when you start, even when you're fourth or fifth book, you have to have your 9 to 5 job because otherwise, here in Portugal, it's very hard. It's very hard.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I didn't realize. And that
Yeah.
sounds tough and just shows how, important it is to have, that passion because, that's the motivation, just what needing to tell the story, even if you're not going to be rewarded for it. That just makes it more special. That's amazing.
Now I'm going to ask you a few quick questions with quick answers that I ask everyone.
Okay.
It's always the same. Okay, Louise, what was the first book that made you jealous, the kind of I wish I had written this?
Well, I probably would have been an adult rather than a child because I wouldn't have been envious of an author. So maybe oh, I tell you what, I really thought, ooh, that's good. Little Face by Sophie Hannah in
Mhm.
the noughties. I think it came out in about 2005. And I just started writing and I read that book and I just thought, oh my God, that's so good. I wish I'd written that.
You know, I really love your bluntness. You're very blunt in your answers, and I really like that. That's really nice. Do you have any superstition or strange habit when you're writing?
Absolutely not. No, not a single one. No. And I don't believe in, I don't believe in writer's block for me anyway. I'm not saying it doesn't exist for other people, but I just think, you can't always feel inspired. And so you just got to treat the job it as a job. if you're not in the mood, just get on with it anyway, and you'll get into that vein of concentration, and the inspiration will come. But no, I have no superstitions, and I don't even really have any rituals. I used to drink a lot of coffee when I was writing, but I've recently had to give up coffee because it was making me sort of, have palpitations.
Okay.
So now I might have a nice peppermint tea, and some chocolate or something. But no, no superstitions at all. Just a perpetual condition of hope.
Can you share your daily routine as a glamorous writer at home?
Okay, so I'll get up and I'll be in my pajamas, and they've probably got like dogs printed on them, or
Hmm.
something crazy, because I love dogs.
Yeah,
And
you have a dog, yeah.
yeah, I have a dog. And so I'll start the day with just sort of chatting with my husband over a coffee, decaf in my case. And then I'll probably start at about 9:30, and then I'll just go on until I'm hungry, or it's time to walk the dog. And then I'll usually have a couple of hours off in the middle of the day to do those things, and then I'll do another burst of writing in the late afternoon. And I sit on the sofa. I don't have an office or a desk. I just sit on
Really?
the sofa. Yeah. And sometimes I'm a huge tennis fan. So if one of the big tournaments is on, I'll have the tennis on in the background, but on mute. Yeah, I won't be going like this because I would be going like
Yeah,
this. Yeah, and then I think nearer a deadline, it starts to be a bit more frantic, and I'll be working weekends and working late. But I try to get ahead of the game, so because I don't want to feel too stressed out. And yeah, so that's it really. And then if I have a book coming out, I'll normally take a whole month off to do publicity, and I won't think about my work in progress. I
hmm.
won't write. I won't read it. I'll just try and absorb myself in the story and the characters that I'm talking about at
It's
events
very
and
stressful that
meetings.
month, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
You
yeah. Well,
keep
it's
repeating, repeating.
busy.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's busy, and it works best if you can remember the book very, very well, bearing in mind that you will have written another book in between, or at least be halfway through it, and
of
your
course.
your mind is full of a completely different story. So sometimes I will reread the book.
Hmm.
Um, and yes, and then I'll just free myself up to do that, and then I'll go back to writing once that's all done. But yeah, so it's a very basic routine. It's like anyone working from home, but we just did it, before work from home was
A
commonplace in other
thing.
jobs. Yeah.
What would your writer self or your reader self from 20, 30 years ago never believed about you are doing today? And on your case, I think you don't need to go that far and just go back to before you won that award, probably.
Yeah, yeah. I think she would have been amazed and just also so relieved that it had worked out okay, because it did feel quite disappointing, and as if I was an also ran, or like came last in the race, which isn't a good feeling. Because it is a competitive business. It is about sales figures. It is about those numbers ultimately. But I also think that I would have been just really surprised to know that had so many ideas. I think I would have expected to have run out of ideas by now. And but if anything, I've just become more interested in the world. And I think as you get older, you do become more interested in society. You
Hmm.
become more interested in politics. You're able to place present day events in a context that you have lived through. And so I think that gives you such wisdom in a way that you wouldn't have had earlier in your career and as a young person. And so I just wouldn't have imagined that I would be so invested in ideas and society and politics. And also just, but still be so interested in other people and kind of amazed by some people. I do definitely feel like, oh my God, this is a different world now. This is not the world that I recognize. And so, as a writer, it's a great job for working, for processing how you feel about the changing world. And so, yeah, I'd just be amazed that I was still in the game. I would have thought I would be, retired by now.
You're living your best life.
Yeah,
You're
yeah, you
now
could
being
say
one of
that.
your characters living in a glamorous life with a property. Almost there. You're
Yeah,
you're you're
absolutely.
getting there. You're
Yeah,
getting
yeah,
there.
almost. Yeah.
Now this one is a very funny and blunt question, okay? What's the stupidest question you've ever been asked about your books?
Oh my God, I wish I'd had this question in advance because I could have thought about it properly because now I can't think
Or
of anything.
the most stupid thing a reader told you about your book?
I've got a good one. I mean, there are so many, but I one thing that I've noticed is that lots of people think that everything I'm writing has happened to me.
Ah,
Not everyone thinks that, but you'll meet the occasional person who seems to think there's a memoir element to every book. And I think it's partly because there is a lot of me in the characters and they can see
mhm.
how similar the voices are. But, all of these things have not happened to me. I would not have time to do a job if I was involved in all these crimes and, horrible dilemmas and, misadventures. But I always remember someone saying to me when my book came out and it was called The Second Husband.
Mhm.
And it was kind of like my take on Lolita. It was quite a dark
I
story
love
about
that.
a woman. Yeah, this woman has married again, but her new husband is actually interested in her teenage daughter.
Hmm.
And I always remember someone saying to me, I didn't know you'd been married twice. And at the time, I hadn't ever been married at all. And so it's like, well, just because I've written a book called The Second Husband about a woman who's got a second husband doesn't mean that I've been married twice. But yeah, that kind of thing will come up occasionally, and it does make me laugh.
Imagine if they had said, I did know you were married, and I couldn't even imagine that your husband would like to have an affair with your teenage daughter or
Yes,
stepdaughter or something.
it's so funny. It's crazy. Yeah, so I think that is the most interesting phenomenon because that, although it's a minority, it comes up regularly enough, this idea that I must have experienced all of these things
Hmm.
myself. When, the whole point of fiction is that it is an act
Fiction,
of imagination.
of
Yeah.
course. Louise, last question. Complete the sentence. If I didn't work with books, I would probably be.
I think I would be a dog walker or maybe a cab driver.
Why?
Well, when I was about to give up working before our house, I was considering training to be a cab driver because I really like driving. And actually, I'm really glad I didn't have to try it out because I'm sure it's not fun at all. And since then, we've had speed limits reduced in London. So
Mm.
now it's just absolute torture driving. But at the time, I could picture myself. So I thought I might sort of run a cab business with, sort of female only
Walking
clients
dogs
or
in
something.
your cab?
Yeah, no. Yeah, maybe there would be a dog in the front seat of my cab.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I love dogs. Actually, I don't think I'd be a very good dog walker because I struggle to control one, so I'm sure I couldn't control six. But yeah, one of those two maybe.
Louise, I really loved meeting you. And I thank you for being here. And I really hope that you, I don't know, probably with your Portuguese publisher, get to come here to Lisbon Book Fair. I will be there,
Oh
first row.
yes, I would love that. I'm just waiting for them to invite me. That would be
Oh, they will listen
fantastic.
to this and they will invite you.
Yeah, I hope
Probably.
so. Oh, it would be
It's
lovely to
out
meet you
there.
in
It's out
person.
there. Now they know that you want to
Yeah,
come.
yeah,
Yeah.
I really do. And it's been a pleasure to meet you and to chat.
You too, Louise. Okay, so have a really the rest of your afternoon writing and drinking your tea and all that.
Yes, yes.
Okay?
Thank you
Huge
so much.
kisses. Bye bye, Louise.
Bye.
Bye
Bye.
bye.